I think we need to just first start from a place of awareness of what emotional maturity looks like. I want to be on the forefront of that. Here's where I want to manifest and make it known that I want to speak to groups on this. I want to help people with this. I want to put a lot of content out about this, because you can hear it and say that's a good idea, but this is something I've been living for so long and trying to help people recognize, understand, be. And so I just think that we're just at the beginning of figuring out what to do with our emotional immaturity. And I think it will definitely change dynamics, relationships. And so why not the world?
We'll make it out and fall in love tonight.
Tony, welcome back. We're super excited to have you here. I had this idea in my head too. It's gone now, but I just realized as we began, I was going to give you like this big introduction. I don't know if that came to me in a dream or not. It was like, I don't remember what it was, but here we are. So
okay.
I'll talk about the thing that I was going to do and then not do the thing. So then it's really awkward and strange.
It's very powerful, because it's theater of the mind. So I'm sure the listener right now is thinking of their own powerful introduction of me, even if they don't know who I am. Right.
And if they're listening to the show, they know who you are, because we have had the pleasure of speaking with you.
Yeah, it's been like a year since you were on this. I don't remember.
Has it been a year?
I think so, about a year.
Wow.
Sounds right.
How did that go so fast?
I don't know. It speeds up the older we get. Isn't that a fact? There's some physics thing. That's why I'm a therapist. I don't know math or physics, but there's something to do with time travel, time speeding up, something about time.
It totally feels like it speeds up when you get older, right? When you were a kid, it was so slow. Like you had to wait for summer break, and then you had to wait for Christmas, and then you had to wait for your birthday, and all of it was just so incredibly like, come on already.
Right? I was like waiting for 18 forever. Thought I would never get there. Now I'm like, I've already doubled that number, like in a blink, and then some. I'm like, how did that happen?
Well, like what you're saying is now it's like, man, it's already Christmas again. It's already my birthday. It's already summer. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It happens really fast. Tony, you mentioned emotional immaturity.
Yes.
Yeah.
We posted this, we had this piece of content that is doing pretty good on Facebook right now. It's got over 5 million views.
Dang.
And we stole it's a repurposed piece of content of this woman just flipping a car. So it's some sort of like weight competition where they strip down a car and then you have to flip it over on its top and then continue to flip it over all the way, right?
She's a badass. She's rolling a car.
It's awesome. It's a really cool reel. And then I put in on the screen, the text on the screen is women carrying the emotional weight of the relationship.
Wow.
And in the clip too, it's perfectly shot where there's these two guys that are like, when she gets it lifted up, they slide in supports underneath the tires at the very beginning. So it's like men doing the bare minimum. And when it comes to emotional weight, carrying the emotional weight of the relationship. So it sparked quite a bit of conversation. There's a handful of comments on there, like thousands of people that are mostly men that obviously have an issue with it.
Okay.
And it has really made me think about, because there's a lot of negativity on there, but it's like fallen into a couple of different camps. One camp is people that just want to argue the fact that, this is bullshit and emotional weight isn't a real thing. And women are the ones that bring the emotional weight. So it's like men arguing that this is bullshit. Man. And then the next camp is just like complete,
There's not even an engine in the car.
Yeah,
There's
just completely minimizing
She's
the
not
woman,
doing anything.
right? That she obviously, this is a stripped down car, like this is a joke, all of those things. And then the last one is just pure sexualization of the whole experience.
Oh.
And none of it is taking responsibility for, it's definitely, I definitely, framed it in such a way where I was hoping to spark something from people, because I think it's a really big issue. But what it's highlighting for me, because it's gone so big and there's people all over the world commenting on it, is it's just like the level with which men will avoid taking accountability and ownership of a simple thing of like, hey, maybe you need to look at your emotions. And instead, everything else that we'll do to kind of avoid that. Right. And it's just like, it's fascinating, but it's also really disheartening. And it's like the last couple of days being in the weeds in the comments and responding to people and engaging with people, I'm just like, holy cow. Like I didn't feel like it was that bad off, but it feels like it's pretty bad off, where there's it's a very small snippet of society. Obviously it's like 5 million views and then like 300,000, but like 3,000 or 5,000 comments or something like that. So definitely a small percentage, but at the same time, I'm like, is it really that bad? Like, are men still so oblivious to the fact that they have to feel and express and connect in all of these kind of different ways? So it's perfect timing that you're here to talk about it.
It really is. It's such a good setup. And mind if I tangent, and then we'll come and we'll make our way there, because I think this is so excellent. Because so when I started, so I've got the 2 podcasts, Virtual Couch, and which is 450 or so episodes, and Waking Up to Narcissism, which is I think maybe pushing 140. And the Waking Up to Narcissism has always had this vision that, and it's funny because the word narcissist is thrown around everywhere. Everyone's ex is a narcissist. Everybody's boss is a narcissist. I do maintain that cats are narcissistic in nature. Every little kid is by definition a narcissist. They're so, egocentric. But the actual population or that could be diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder, but depending on your study, is, I don't know, 3 to 5%. So then I've said what we all are, though, is emotionally immature. And if we start from a place of emotional immaturity, then it's a lot more palatable. People are willing to say, okay, that's fair. I've been called a narcissist, but I can agree I'm probably emotionally immature. And I thought, and I introduced that concept, I want to say before episode 5 or 6. And so then I say continually, and it's a mouthful, of somebody who has narcissistic personality disorder, or they have narcissistic traits or states or tendencies, or they are extremely emotionally immature. But I made it a point that I'm willing to say all those words because I want that part to be very prominent so we can have the conversation. Because a narcissist is, and what I say often on the podcast is, if you are even asking yourself, am I narcissistic? You're not, because a true narcissist wouldn't do that. Now, there's a true narcissist would also game the system or weaponize a tool. So they'd say, okay, fine. Am I a narcissist? I guess I'm not. I just asked myself the question. So there's a whole vibe there that is not being very honest about that introspection. But then once we establish, all right, we're all emotionally mature, I thought, all right, I have changed the world. But then a mere 2 years later and 120, or I guess it would be more, 3 years later, I continue to say emotional immaturity, and I'm realizing that I would give these examples and people weren't really internalizing that. They were saying, man, she is that way. Yeah. She, or right. Or she's saying, no, he's very immature. And then I'm saying, okay, but go back to the part where I'm saying, how about we start from a place where we all are immature? So there is the baseline, which we will operate today, if that is okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. So now,
and I agree with all of that as well.
Okay.
Like, that's a very, like, that alone right there is something that I can relate to significantly over the course of our relationship, where at the beginning I had, massive emotional immaturity. And when all of the narcissism started coming on the scene and everybody was talking about it so much, and you saw so much content surrounding it, I'm like, I'm pretty sure I'm falling into that camp, because I did display so many of those behaviors and so many of those things, even some of like the subtle, gaming it and manipulating it to some extent, because I was intellectual enough to kind of like recognize. But deep down inside, obviously, it's really just that emotional immaturity that's taking place.
Yeah. So
all of it.
Well, I appreciate that too. And so I think let's talk about now what that really looks like. And then what really pushed me, I did a 2-part series just a few weeks ago on what emotional immaturity looks like as an adult. And what really brought it home for me was I did a training as a therapist with, it's an online training. I didn't do it with him directly. I wish I could, but with a guy named Terry Real. And he's a therapist that I hear mentioned often. And then his training was incredible. And he works a lot with the narcissistic person or the emotionally immature as well. And I felt a kindred soul there, because that's a population I end up working a lot with, are people that are in those relationships. But he was able to put this concept together that I so appreciated, where he said that the things that we did that were adaptive in our childhood to survive basically are now maladaptive as adults. And it fit right into, those things are emotionally immature, which makes sense because they kept us alive as a kid. And now we bring them into our adult relationships and they don't work so well. So I'm going to quote a cheat sheet that I made after the episodes, and I would welcome anybody to reach out to me and I will provide them with this cheat sheet. It's just a couple pages. And now I'm going to step even further back in a tangent, because on this cheat sheet, I quoted a book that I like. I don't know if either of you are familiar with there's a book called The Silent Patient. It's an excellent book. It's written by Alex, and I will butcher the last name, but I think it's Michaelides. But then it's a mental health book, and you can tell that it's not a mental health book. It's a fictional book about a patient in a mental health institution that ends up, I won't spoil it all for you. It's brilliant. It's just such a brilliant book. But you can tell that Alex is either has been a therapist, psychologist, or has been pretty engaged in therapy. And when I eventually went and tried to find more about the author, it looks like he's just very pro therapy. But then he has a follow-up book called The Fury, and it doesn't really focus as much on mental health. But in the book, he in his description of therapy through one of the main characters, this is what the character said. And I think I'm already telling you, and I think that you must appreciate this quote. We'll see if you do. Yeah, Steph might say that's a snooze. Get on with it, old man. So the character. Okay. So the character says, he says, my therapist was called Mariana. I remember once she said something chilling. It messed up my head for a long time. Looking back, I think it changed my entire life. When we're young and afraid, when we are shamed and humiliated, something happens. Time stops. It freezes at that moment. A version of us is trapped at that age forever. A frightened child is hiding in your mind. It's still unsafe. It's still unheard and unloved. And the sooner you get in touch with that child and then communicate with them, the more harmonious your life will be. After all, that's what he grew you for, isn't it? A strong adult body to look after him and his interests, to take care of him and protect him. You were meant to liberate him, but instead you ended up becoming his jailer. And I remember that part hit me so strong where, I mean, yeah, right. Let that one set in. I don't know. What does that feel like? Or what are you thinking right now?
Just that part of like, we were meant to liberate him, but instead became their jailer was just that oh my gosh. It was with all the inner child work that I'll speak like that I have done. I know it's a we, I'm just like speaking for myself, and how much of that has been about breaking her free, breaking them free, and that like integration and that liberation of it. And while that's what I'm doing now, you can't hear that and realize how much it absolutely was a gelling. And then as I progressed, it was like a gelling with punishment. It was like a cruel warden. Because then I was like so mad for all the choices
there was even times,
they made.
babe, where like in the process of you getting to the spot that you're at now, and I did the same thing, so it's not just like you did this, but like the process of recognizing parts work and inner child healing and identifying that part existed, and you're like, I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to I don't want to, like, you would shun her even more.
Right. I preferred her to stay buried in the dungeon.
Yeah. It's crazy.
It took
it's
forever before I could go there because it was so painful. So much, just all of the reasons, right?
Yeah.
Just from that, I'm glad I wrote the book down. I'm going to read that soon. That was so good.
Well, I appreciate it, Steph, when you're saying it's the cruel warden, because that's unfortunately, and I think that just unlocked the whole thing I need to talk about on just kind of spitball with you here is I go back to why so many of us default to shame. And I'm convinced that is a childhood defense, because when I think most of your listeners are probably going to know that difference between guilt and shame. Guilt, I did something bad. Shame, I am bad. And I find that even as the adult self goes to shame, they still think that they need to beat themselves up in order to improve. And even more so with shame. And I did an episode a while ago where it felt like I was kicking somebody while they were down, but I said, shame actually is pretty selfish, because let's say that somebody says, this is how I feel about the thing you've done. And that person now realizes the impact that their behavior has had on their partner. And now they feel worse. And so then they say, oh my gosh, I am a horrible person. And now all of a sudden it kind of went back to them. And the person that just opened up to them now has to say, hey, it's okay.
Now you're then caretaking them.
Yeah. Right. So shame does get you out of a jam, which goes back to this, your childhood adaptation is now maladaptive as an adult. And, but you can see that it kept you alive as a kid, because a lot of times the only way people would get out of something as a little kid was to feel like garbage. And I think that our own emotionally immature parents, bless their hearts, didn't know what they didn't know, but they don't think we're taking it serious enough. If we don't hang our head and say what a piece of garbage we are, then they're saying, okay, no,
okay, it looks like you get it, and now they rescue us. It's okay, champ, but I'm glad that you understand what a piece of garbage you are. And so that's what we've been modeled. Now bring that into our adult, right? Craig, what are you feeling now?
Today's episode of the podcast is brought to you by Heritage Still. A few years back, after we learned all about the toxic chemicals in those nonstick pans, we decided to toss them out and go with 100% stainless steel cookware from Heritage Still.
Heritage Still uses high-quality, multi-clad stainless steel to give you unmatched durability, precision, and performance.
Their cookware is safe for any cooking surface. It's easy to clean, and every piece of cookware comes with a lifetime warranty. So whether you're a pro in the kitchen or just learning your way around, Heritage Still makes cooking easier, more precise, and more enjoyable.
Right now, listeners of the podcast can save 10% off anything at Heritage Still. Head over to heritagestill.us/Steph Craig and be sure to enter promo code Steph Craig at checkout to save 10%.
Invest in cookware that lasts a lifetime. Heritage Still, chef-grade cookware for less.
Oh my goodness.
I can relate to that a lot. Yeah.
I can feel that, and I can also see the way that I parented like that. And it's like, I don't think you really understand the significance here. I don't think you really get it. And then and I'm like, okay, maybe you do get it.
Yeah.
And then when they start to feel like, okay, and then they get, well, come here. Exactly what you just described. That's crazy.
Damn.
So crazy.
Okay. I know I'm digging this, laying this stuff out this way as well. So now, that guilt, that shame, so childhood adaptation that we bring in. And so now look at it like, all right, your little kid, and this is, Craig, I loving some of the content you've been putting out lately about men and feelings, because I'm with you. I think that even a good parent, this is what they did with our feelings. If I said, man, I just feel so bad about something, like, hey, it's not a big deal. Don't worry about it. Or get over it. And then I'm basically feeling like, well, man, I feel like it's a big deal. So I guess I'm wrong about my feelings. And I need somebody over time to fix it for me, to tell me that I'm okay. So I'm going to go to people and say, man, I think this, or I feel this way, waiting for somebody to say, oh, it's okay. You don't need to worry about that. But then if they say, oh, that is bad, then I'm like, oh man, now I feel worse. Then I go to shame. Gosh, I'm just such a piece of garbage. Oh no, you're good. You're okay. So we just create this loop where we don't really have to deal with our own emotions. And I think that's part of this immaturity. I'm going to call it an emotional immaturity epidemic, where then we don't really have to take ownership or accountability of things, because that feels really bad. Our feelings are bad. So I'm either going to push them away, because that worked as a kid. I'd say gaslighting is a childhood defense mechanism. If I can hang in there and say I didn't do it, or the dog did it, or whatever, and I hold to my guns, I will get out of it. And so we learn childhood adaptation.
Gaslighting is a childhood defensive mechanism.
Yeah. It's built in from the factory. So now look at that, where we bring that into our adulthood. It was somewhat adaptive as a child, but it's maladaptive in our adult relationships, because it does not build connection, because there are so many times that our partner knows that we did it, but we're so good at, but I didn't. And we will hold that to the very end, until finally they say, okay, I mean, I guess maybe I am crazy. And then to that little kid that just gaslit as an adult, made it out of another one. And so then they don't have to think about it anymore, but to their partner, they're having this continued pattern of, okay, maybe I am going crazy because I just saw this, or you did say that, or, but that gaslighting is a childhood defense mechanism. Now we're going to get into so many other good versions or examples of emotional immaturity, because now back to that quote, I think it so beautifully illustrates the process of then emotional development, because those moments that are locked in us. So let me go back to the feelings, emotions. So I think what this talks about is our inner child then imprints the memory or the feeling, the emotion. And then it says, okay, I don't know what to do with this thing right now, but then when you grow up, you'll deal with it, right? Because you'll be a big kid. So then we grow up and we miss the memo somewhere along the way. So then here comes that emotion, and our inner child is saying, okay, good, the big kid's going to take over. But then the big kid is not there. It's just the little kid wearing grown-up clothes. And when you look at it that way, then you can start to see our emotional maturity. So I wrote a couple of examples, and these are, basically, spoiler alert, these are kind of me, is what they are. But I said, what's fascinating, how these frozen moments manifest in adult relationships. The child who learned to people please to avoid conflict becomes the adult who can't set boundaries. And I look at where I'm at now and I make jokes about it, but I have such a hard time saying no to anyone in my family. If they, and that's why I work more than I ever thought I would work. That's why I will just make more money, because I don't want to say no if somebody wants something or they need something. And my joke has lately been that I'm at least learning to pause before I say yes. So it used to be, hey, Dad, can I? And I'm like, yeah, you bet. And now I'll at least let them ask the thing and then I'll say yes. So, I mean, there's growth there, but I still, that people pleaser me, I don't want anybody to feel bad, or I don't want them to think something about me. We'll get to that one in a minute too. Or the child who learned to shut down emotions becomes the partner who can't express vulnerability. I was talking with a client recently who they lost their dad early. They were the youngest of a whole bunch of kids. And then they had a stepfather that wasn't really engaged. And so they just learned that, okay, I just need to fade into the background and I will survive. Now in their adult relationships, they're more of that avoidant personality. And when their partner really wants to know them, they just don't say anything. And then the partner eventually creates a narrative. Okay, I mean, I guess we'll talk about it later, or I must be the problem. And so you can see where that's unhealthy in the adult relationship, but it was adaptive in their childhood. So I just think that all these immature behaviors that we're doing, we need to thank our inner child when we recognize them, because it got us here. Thanks, little buddy. But we got to let the big kid take over. But then the big kid doesn't really know what to do, or they're still afraid that they'll do it wrong, which is yet another version of emotional immaturity. Or this one is me as well. I put in here, the child who needed constant reassurance becomes the adult seeking endless external validation. Now we're getting into those narcissistic traits and tendencies, because I have needed validation my whole life to know, am I okay? Do you guys like me? And so I think it's interesting. I had to be a class officer. I had to be a class clown. I had to write a humor column in a newspaper. I can't just have one podcast. I got to have a whole bunch of podcasts. I got to speak everywhere. And then I didn't realize how much that was parents that weren't really seeing me. They had a lot of their own stuff going on. So I'm like, I'm over here. Hey, if I do really good at sports, will you guys like me? Okay, a little bit there. And then what's really funny to me too is so I was an ultra marathon runner for 25, 30 years. That's not just a marathon. Ultra marathons are anything longer than 26 miles. So I had to do 32 miles, and I had to do 50 miles, and I had to do 100K, 62 miles, and I had to do 100 milers. Then I had to do 24-hour events. I had to run 125 miles, 133 miles. And now I realize that was part of that. When is enough? Why couldn't I have stopped at a 5K? That would have been kind of nice, So it's that I needed endless external validation seeking. And that has been a lot, I'm sure, in my adult relationship, because it was just, I now realize I never got enough of it. And so I've had to really work on that.
That's been a huge thing for me lately too, Tony, is unpacking what that actually looks like in my life, because I can relate so much to it, where all of the, like, I wasn't like the class officer or anything like that, but I was always like the class clown kind of, but like the crazy kid that was trying to seek attention by doing all sorts of like jumping off of things and all these kind of crazy stunts and all of this stuff to just, please see me, please validate me, please tell me that I'm worth something. Yeah. And I mean, that's consistently continued all the way up and through adulthood, up until, it still happens. It's not something that just kind of like goes away. It's still something that I'm constantly having to pay attention to. Is this act driven by that internal need for wanting to have validation externally, for somebody to come along and say you're actually worth something?
Yeah.
Or is that something that I can learn to continually cultivate and create inside of me? And I don't think it's a mistake that we've gotten to the point in our life where we're like creating content and we're on social media and doing all of these things, right? It's just this massive externalization of that thing where it's like, hey, universe out there, please like Craig. And follow and share and tell us that we're worth something.
And it's funny.
So funny.
And I've thought about that too, where I love everything that I'm doing in therapy. The acceptance and commitment therapy has changed my life. Learning about emotional maturity and validation. I've learned so much about my ADHD that I had a separate podcast about that for a while. I had to learn this parenting technique. I've had to navigate my faith crisis, and all of those things are part of my practice. I have content on, and in my mind, it's just, in the past, it was just, no, I just want to help people. But yeah, I've thought over the last little while that, or if people agree with me, then I must be okay. I must be doing it right, which goes back to one of the most core, fundamental, emotionally immature, I don't even know what I'm calling them, characteristics though, is that black or white thinking. And what I'd love to do is take you through a bunch of these that I'll give you the kid example, and then we can look at how it shows up in adult relationships. And I would love to know what comes up for you there. If you have examples of that yourselves, I don't know.
Sounds awesome.
Are you game?
I feel like we're going to check every box.
Oh, I hope so. I mean, there's a part of me that thinks that if people don't, then it's funny. This is why I think that the black and white or all or nothing thinking is at the core, because it really, there's a right way and a wrong way. There is I don't want to say the wrong thing, because, black and white, all or nothing, good, bad, right, wrong. And so children, they see the world in absolutes. So things are all good or they're all bad. So in adults, it ends up showing up as ultimatums or labeling partners as always doing something or never doing something. And then that bleeds into the relationship itself. And it cycles between when my spouse is doing things I like, then I idealize the relationship. And then when they do something I don't like, then I devalue the relationship. And so we get into this mix where we're just trying to manage each other's emotions to get the validation. And where I see this happen a lot lately, because I've been bringing this stuff into my couples therapy a lot, is someone will express themselves and they'll do it in a good, healthy way. I know last time I was on, I talked about my beloved 4 pillars of a connected conversation, and we're showing up and we're trying to be genuinely curious and all those things, but the other person just kind of shuts down. And now I can look over and say, hey, what's going on here? And usually they'll say, I don't know. I don't know. And now I can say, all right, little child inside of you, are you worried you're going to say the wrong thing? And most every time, I'm not a big all or nothing guy, but most every time it's, I don't want to say it in the wrong way. And that's where I'm saying, oh, okay, so this is your inner child that is worried about getting it wrong. And the very first person that I brought this up with, she was awesome. And she talked about getting in trouble in, I think it was like violin lessons or piano lessons as a kid. And then she had learned that then if she just hunkered down, she would eventually, after being told that she did things wrong or bad, the right way to do things. And then she would then echo it, and then she would get the praise and get out of the situation. So she had learned that when things got intense, if I just hunker down, eventually I'll be told what I need to say, what the right thing will be. So you see that black or white thinking, and so many things will go back to that I don't want to say the wrong thing. But I like this idea of
there's this spot in there, Tony, where you were mentioning like because I relate so much to that black and white thinking. And it was a big chunk of what I had a really good therapist that I worked with a few years ago during COVID and everything like that. And that's oftentimes the thing that he would always bring me back to, is it's like, can't it be both? Can't it be both? Can't it be both? Like it was this mantra that he kept like repeating over and over again. And every time he would say it, I would get so pissed off at him. And I'm like, yes, it can be both. Fine. Okay. Yes. Fine. It can be both. But I didn't pick up on, like, when we are in activation together, like when we're fighting and arguing with each other, we will very much use that language of like, you always do this, or you never do this. And I haven't put that piece together, that's the manifestation of that same dynamic. Because we do that. I was thinking about how you do that a lot.
You were thinking how I do that. It's funny. Like, I wonder what part of this is, because I was like, oh man, we used to do that so much. And what actually like started helping with that is, I would tell you, I'm like, you always, or you never. Mm-hmm. And you were like, I never. And then just like the way, and I was like, okay, actually you do it a lot. You do do it a lot. And just, you're not doing it right now about this, but you like categorized or all of the nevers. Like when you're in that space, your mind isn't looking to bring peace in that situation or like look at the full perspective. It's looking to validate your emotional or your reaction. You're feeling that it's trying to prove you right. So you're not able to quite see that, and you're only looking for like, let me show you why I'm right now, in a deep core level. And so to be able to catch that and go, oh, wait a minute. Okay. And also, like, I want to say before we go into this, and all these, like, our listeners and your listeners that are like, oh my gosh, I'm checking all these boxes. It's like, how could we not?
Oh,
it's okay. It's okay. Yeah.
Steph, the one of the I'd say the main feedback, and I've received more feedback from these 2 episodes I've done around this than I have in a long time. And a lot of it is I so see this, I identify, and it's basically saying, now what do I do? And I got to throw a part 3 out there and say, oh, my bad. I just think it's kind of cool to know right now. We'll get to what you do with it later, because I love this path of enlightenment of where we didn't know what we didn't know. Now we know. And we're not exactly sure what to do, or we do sometimes. And then that's probably where we'll spend the most time. And it's frustrating because sometimes we wish we just didn't know. And then eventually you'll get to this part where I do whatever I need to do more than I don't. And then the last part of that is I have become, it is. And, and so we're in that awkward part right now where, oh my gosh, now I know. And what's interesting is then the little child's going to come in and hang our head. Oh man, I do that stuff. But I just want it to be, oh, check it out. That I totally do that. Like that is a thing. How cool is that? Now I know. But I guess I'm trying to sell that. So I like that you're saying that. And I want to say too, the all or nothing black or white thinking, I have to tell you what that looks like from a couples therapist. If I'm watching the couple on the couch in front of me.
Today's episode is brought to you by Woolly. Most fabrics today are packed with synthetic materials, microplastics that shed into the environment and your skin.
But not Woolly clothes. All of their apparel is made with natural merino wool. And the very first time I tried Woolly, I was hooked. I swapped out all of my boxers, not just because they're comfortable and feel good, but I'm also concerned about not leaching any of those harmful chemicals you know where. I mean, come on.
Craig loves his boxers, and let me tell you, I can't get enough of their panties either. They're so soft and comfortable, it almost feels like I'm not wearing any underwear at all.
Merino wool isn't just soft and comfortable. It's naturally moisture wicking, helps regulate your temperature naturally, and odor resistant. So with temperatures heating up this summer, it's time to go with some Woolly.
And right now, listeners of Steph and Craig get 15% off of everything at Woolly. Click the link in the description. Be sure to enter promo code Steph and Craig and save your 15% now.
Wear better, feel better with Woolly clothing.
And I brought awareness to this for a long time because I would say don't use all or nothing statements, because the second that we'll just say the husband says, and you never say that you love me, the wife is not leaning in with empathy going, wow, that would be really difficult if to you it feels like she's sitting, you watch her kind of tune out a little bit because she's thinking of, okay, no, I said it yesterday. And almost like she wants to raise her hand. Hey, hang on, if I can just correct that, then we can move on. But that's not the point.
That all the time.
Okay.
As soon as she'll say something along those lines of like, you never do this thing. And I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, okay, literally I did it yesterday. I did it like 15 minutes before we had this conversation. Like I do this thing on the regular. Do you know what I mean? Whatever it is, right? There's so many different examples of it.
Well, then we get to go into victim mode and go, I can't believe you don't think I ever do that. And now I just made it about me, and that will get us out in the weeds. So even in just basic couples therapy, I'm trying to bring awareness to that of even just changing that language to, and I don't feel like you often do this, or I don't think you often do this, or I don't think that you, it seems like it has been a long time since you said this, versus you haven't said this, even if you give a time frame. That's another one too. You haven't said this in years. Then the person's immediately going through, I don't think it's been years. And you just watch that vibe from the couple's therapist view. And you know that at that moment we've kind of lost the momentum. So I really like that you're bringing that up. So that's just the first one, the black or white thinking, all or nothing thinking. The second one is my favorite, because as I was creating the content, I realized, oh man, this makes so much sense. So I don't really like opening my mail at all. I don't like looking at my bank account. And as long as nobody comes and gets me, it seems like it's okay. But I'm not going to lie. I've had to pay some extra taxes. Currently, I've had to pay lots of late registration fees for vehicles. And I've got a lot of things set up on autopay, but other things I don't. And my stack of mail will be insane. And I'm sure I'm the only person that's ever dealt with that. Craig?
You're not. That'd be me.
Oh, that's you, Steph. I love it.
Oh,
okay.
My gosh. It's so bad that I have several emails, not because I really need them, but because I'm like, okay, I can't handle that one anymore. I'll just start a new one.
Oh, that's even better.
This will be for only my important ones now.
There we go. I love that.
But I don't get rid of them. They just oh my gosh.
Okay,
I'm working on it, but
okay, this is the best. So this one is it's the magical thinking, and welcome to the world of magical thinking, because this one, we'll deal with it later. We'll talk about the difficult things later. That's magical.
or I will, and what it's about is that when you're a kid, kids believe that their thoughts can influence their external reality. And it's in so many different ways. If I don't leave my stuffed animals in a good position on my bed when I go to school, then they might get disappointed by the time I get home. Or I was listening to this podcast. It's this guy, Derek Thompson. I really like him. He's such an intellectual, but he just mentioned this the other day where he said up until his 20s, he thought if I wear a certain type of sock that I'll have a better day or I'll meet somebody. And I do believe that we probably all still have bits of this magical thinking. And
I still definitely do.
Okay. Yeah.
Definitely. And there's parts of me that I'm like, I'm not letting that go.
Oh, good. And that's what I say. Acceptance of that. Absolute acceptance of that, I think, is one of the best things. Is none of this is like, again, goes back to the first thing we talked about. It isn't bad. It's not, there's not a bad or good or an all or nothing or a black or white. I just want to say, it just is. And we might even believe that it really does lead to magical outcomes, and that's okay, because who am I to tell somebody that isn't true? So I just like bringing awareness to this. But what is fascinating about this is and this is where this made so much sense to me, is that we're supposed to grow out of that to a point, because we have this like cause and effect relationship that is supposed to come to us as we emotionally mature. But the cause of me not opening my mail has absolutely led to the effect of me paying late fees, but I have not done anything about it. So that cause and effect relationship hasn't been enough to cause me to become more emotionally mature on that. And I've even noticed that after I put this content together, I did deal with some IRS things that I just kept kicking the can down the road. And it turned out they were worse than I had anticipated. So then you don't even get the Disney movie version and it turned out it wasn't so bad. And I actually made money. Oh no, it was worse, but yeah, it's part of being an adult, apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We tried to deal with all of that. Like I still, like Steph was saying, I still have a lot of it. And it's honestly, Tony, that the idea of like magical thinking is something that we have come to embrace at this point in our life from this perspective of very much cultivating and creating that type of energy, the innocence of childhood, and leaning into it. And then also the missing component for us was the mature adult part of it, where like part of the reasons why, in a healthy environment, the child can have magical thinking and live in fantasy because all of their other needs are being taken care of by healthy parents, right?
Yeah.
Where they're in that space, like providing the safe container for that magic to exist. And I love that. And we just had to learn how to do both at the same time. So like we still live in this kind of like, I don't want to say a fantasy place, but very like we were driving around. So we're in Tennessee, right? And one of the things that we did not expect when we moved here was lightning bugs. So there's fireflies, there's lightning bugs.
I was literally about to say lightning bugs because I grew up there, and now I wish I would have, because that would have been magical, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's still magical.
It's still magical.
Like it's the time of year right now where they're coming out. So we're driving, at night, we're coming home, and we kind of live in the woods. And so suddenly it's like the whole woods are just lighting up with fireflies as you're driving along. It's beautiful. Like it's amazing. And we're sitting there like, we live in a magical forest. Like this is a magical fairy forest that we live in. The proof is evident all around us, right?
Yeah.
We were missing that component of like the healthy, mature adult that is able to make sure that child still has that safe container to play in, to be a kid in. So that's the kind of part that we were missing, and that we've learned how to kind of cultivate.
We're giving it to ourselves now.
Yeah.
We're like, damn right, it's a magical fairy forest.
Exactly. But then if that magical fit, then if I was waiting for the fairy to come pay my taxes, that might be a little extreme.
Yeah.
Unless there's a fairy listening that would like to alleviate me of my taxes. Exactly. My tax debt. And I skipped the biggest part of this magical thinking is because I have a 1-year-old grandson now that's why we moved to Arizona, where we did. And this was around Easter when I was putting this stuff together, and he really did do this thing where he had this big part of an egg and he put it over his face. And it was the first time where he did he disappeared. Like how cool is that, right? And then and then all of a sudden, and we're feeding into it, and that's the best kind of magical thinking, where he's literally like, oh my gosh, I just disappeared. Like these guys can't see me. They're asking where I'm at. And then I pull this eggshell away, and now apparently have appeared. That is amazing, right?
Yes.
Oh, So
I
the
love
magical thing,
that.
and I really like this idea of, I can identify this one in so many areas of my life though. And part of it is I'll do it later. I mean, at this point in my life, that is magical because will I?
If I remember,
Right.
I'll get to it later and then poof.
Well, and I'm glad you brought that up. That's right. I think even on one of those episodes, I talked about well, I don't need to write it down. I now realize magical thinking, because then it's just a crapshoot if I happen to remember. So that one's difficult. This one is big. We're gonna have fun with this one. I call it emotional reasoning. So children believe if I feel it, it must be true. So the classic is the kid saying, "Stop yelling at me." You know you're not yelling, but they feel like you are yelling at them. It is true. Now you need to stop yelling at me. And what does the parent eventually do is, I will show you yelling, and then they will yell. Not our finest moments as parents. Now, as an adult, I feel abandoned. Therefore, you are abandoning me. But that is something I feel. And so now, and I like to slow this one down so much, because if I get this in the office, and I am not even saying that there's not truth in this, but I think it's a great place to start from okay, check it out. I feel abandoned. Now I believe you are the one that is abandoning me. Because if you look at it that way as adults, then it's basically saying, so I need you to make me feel better about a thing that I think that you're doing, but you are not on board that you are doing it. The reality is you might not be, but I don't feel good. So I need you to make me feel better about this thing I think you're doing that you're not sure if you are. So start dancing. And then if you got a guy who has good old nice guy syndrome, or he doesn't want to get in trouble, or he's worried that if I don't get this right, then she'll never want to have sex with me. I mean, I see that one so often. Then he's like, okay, I'll do whatever. So now we're talking, his energy's off. He's not being authentic. And most likely he's not going to know how to make her feel better. And then she gets to say, okay, you obviously don't care about me. And deep inside, she's probably internalizing man, what is wrong with me? Am I unlovable? So that is one I see so often. And that, I just want to say, man, bless both their hearts. That game's rigged from an emotional immaturity standpoint. That one is not. So then that doesn't go well. So now in comes the all kind of black or white thinking. Man, I did it wrong. What was the right way that I should have done that, when there wasn't a right way because the whole game was rigged? Or here comes magical thinking. We'll just go into our bunkers for a few days and then poke our heads out and say, hey, are we good? Yeah, we're good. And then we get to that point where that's just the absence of bad. That isn't good. And we do that long enough, and now you've got yourself a pretty crummy marriage, because you're basically got two little 5-year-olds that are trying to pretend that they're adults.
Yeah, this one's hard for me, because a big part of healing for me involved validating what I was feeling, making sure that
we're going to talk about this. Yes.
And what was coming up for me was being validated, was being legitimized, was being seen, was being heard, all of those things. But the recognition of yes, beautiful, paint the perfect picture. We're so emotionally mature and healed that I'm doing all of that internal validation for myself. So I never need any of the external validation from somebody else. But that's just not the case. And I think even in a perfectly healed version, I still don't think it's the case. I think there's some healthy validation that needs to take place externally. We need somebody to reflect back our world.
I agree. Yeah. And Craig,
that was a big thing. Go ahead.
Oh, well, and I feel so bad. I should, it's like, if we were in the therapy office, I would want you to go all through this, but I worry at times that now somebody listening is going to start going into the yeah buts. And so I want to rescue them for a brief second and say, what Craig is saying is so spot on, because in my part 2, I came back around to this one because I'd gotten some feedback from somebody that said, hey, how can you talk about making people feel so seen as highly sensitive people or empaths? And now you're saying, oh, it's not real. And I thought, oh my gosh, literally the listener, bless their heart, went to the black or white, all or nothing thinking, because what I was saying is, oh, start from this place of, I said, please trust your gut. Please start from a place of, I'm going to listen to me, but just be aware that now I can understand that this is how I feel, 100% how I feel. But my immature version is, so it is true. So you need to fix it. And what I've had just some beautiful experiences with in the couples field with this now is, and I've got one right now that's going to sound so simple and it is so beautiful, but a couple where the wife was saying something similar. I feel this way, therefore I think you are doing it. We identified this version of immaturity. So then I was able to say, okay, so what would you need actually right now in order to feel like he cares in this scenario? And what I have found, the number one answer is, she says, oh, I don't actually know. I just want him to make me feel better. And this was good because I've worked with this couple for quite a while. So then he didn't say, well, what am I supposed to do? Then he said, okay, I actually feel a little more validation here as well, because I've tried to just do things that I think might work. And then when they don't, I beat myself up. I can notice you pull away. So what is so cool about that is now I'm normalizing that, okay, this is beautiful. So
today's episode of the podcast is brought to you by Routine.
We've been on the hunt for an electrolyte powder that we can add to our water every day, and we're excited to say we found it.
Morning Routine is a special blend of organic lemon, apple cider vinegar, Himalayan sea salt, and all the other essential electrolytes that you need for your day. It's non-GMO, organic, dairy and gluten-free,
soy-free, sugar-free, keto-friendly, 100% vegan, and made in the USA. And one of my favorite things about Routine is that it doesn't contain any synthetic dyes or preservatives.
You simply add water, shake it up, and enjoy the nutrients that your body needs for the day. We've been enjoying Routine for a while now and can't wait to share it with you.
Right now, listeners of the podcast can save 10% off anything at Routine. Head over to yourroutine.com/Steph and Craig and be sure to enter promo code Steph and Craig at checkout to save you your 10%.
Start your day off the right way with Morning Routine. Your body will thank you.
yeah, you don't know, because their immature version of me just said, I don't know, just make me feel better. Parent, mom, dad. And so now we get to say, well, we can now just start. I mean, I don't want to say throwing noodles at the wall, but let's start somewhere now. And so they started with a simple, how about for the next week, just before you go to work, just come tell me that you're leaving and you love me and you're going to miss me. And he just said, oh, I can do that. So they did it. And again, what I love about this, it was a similar version of the tax conversation I was having earlier. They came back in, it was probably a couple weeks later. And I said, how'd it go? And then they both said, it was okay, but it wasn't the, oh my gosh, now we're so connected. And what is so good about that is they didn't even know what they needed. They didn't even know that, she didn't even know that this was me kind of throwing an impossible task at him. And he didn't really, he felt like he understood that, oh, I can never get this right. And now they said, okay, now we're working on this together. Now we can try. And she had to have the courage to say, yeah, actually, that's not it. But thank you so much for showing up that way. And he had to have the courage also to say, okay, it isn't what I thought it would be, because this gets into the immaturity of I'll be happy when, if only in my relationship, he told me I love you and kissed me before he left every day, I bet you I'd be happy. And so then she can now think, well, we never got to that point. Well, now we did it. But you see now where they start growing together in an emotionally mature way, where they realize, oh, maybe that wasn't it. But it wasn't like, okay, now what are we going to do? Now it's what's next? Let's figure this out.
Tony, it's so go ahead.
Babe. I know.
It's so fun talking to you, because I'm like, baby, we're doing so good.
It's also like the going back before, because like the we'll be happy when is like absolutely, because that was so much there, but to bring it back just a little bit and how important that is, and realizing, oh, I don't even know, because when we're going through a space and you had a childhood or however it happened where your needs were so invalidated. And
yes.
you weren't allowed to have needs. So you learned how to shut them off so significantly that when the smoke clears and you can like, oh, okay, what do I need? You literally have no idea.
Absolutely.
And so to get to that, where you start flexing that muscle and start practicing, it's almost exciting. It's like,
absolutely.
I need a drink of water right now, just to like know what you actually need. And it's for you, as opposed to, I need to know what I need to be so that you still love me, so that I'm safe, so that I'm still chosen, so that I'm not hurt, so that you don't abandon or abuse, like all of the ways that it can come up in that space to where your needs turn into what you can do for the other person as opposed to what you need. So that is such a crucial point to get somebody flexing that muscle of, what do I actually need for me? What is that healthy space? I love that you can like get them to that point. That's such an exciting space. And I feel like such a close connection with that one, especially. And I feel like you might as well.
Yeah,
just
totally.
Because there was like my need, I had no idea.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Like taking care of your own needs as a child growing up, all of your needs, right? Physical, emotional, like even like coming home from school and nobody's home and you got to take care of what you're eating and all these kind of things.
Yeah.
And then somebody asks you, especially when you get into the deeper space of like when emotions start coming into play and learning how to regulate your nervous system. And it's like, well, what do I need? What do I need that's going to serve me and be healthy for me, rather than all of these crappy coping mechanisms that I've used to, you know, satiate and satisfy and soothe myself. And it's like, well, I don't need those. I don't know what I actually do need. It's been an interesting thing that we've had to kind of learn. And I love that you're bringing it up and highlighting it again. I'm just like, because you're putting words to some of the things that I think we've done, like not just subconsciously, but like in this ramshackle way of just trying to figure out how to do this thing together, trying to heal together. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, what I like that you're saying that is it further, I think, validates that it is, here, I'm going to go all or nothing, black or white. It is the right thing to do. But you start to see, and I love this concept, if somebody is spiritual, if they're religious, if, you know, if you've got all roads lead to God or the universe or the great magnet or the creator or the, all through life, all areas of psychology, discipline, meditation, yoga, we're all trying to figure out how to evolve or how to become our best selves. And you start seeing similarities in all the different teachings in different ways. And then there are people that are kind of finding that, like you say, this ramshackle way on their own. And I just love this concept of when you start to see similar things, similar patterns in different disciplines, then I think we're onto something. I think, you know, this is part of that whole, whatever, collective consciousness or the all, or we're going to figure this stuff out. And because I look at where we're at with emotions now, and here we are, some older people talking about we're figuring out our emotions now. And I have to accept the fact that, and I'm a therapist, 20 years of this, and I'm now understanding, emotions. I got it. So, and teaching my kids now, in my mind, I think we're probably a couple generations still away from where it is just our emotions are welcome as a child, because it's going to take
like
work.
Rather than intellectualizing everything and trying to think about everything, like just the opportunity to express and feel and be in emotion.
Yeah. And that's why, and I really am, got a book project about the emotional immaturity epidemic. And I think where the unfortunate part is you can see emotional immaturity in maybe currently the political climate, or you see it does cause people to rise in the ranks in some industries. And so the unfortunate part is, I do think, and maybe we can look at polarity here, where we can see the extreme emotional immaturity, and that can also be our muse or our mirror to help us understand that. And I think being able to see this it helps me reflect better and be a better version of myself. But I hope that then being able to put words and examples and meaning to this, you can start to see, that's just a little kid in a suit that's needs control. And it actually, you know, the next two that we're going to talk about, external validation dependence and difficulty with accountability. Now, those are two, we're talking about this all or nothing, black or white thinking. And that one, if you have a different opinion than me, then you must think yours is right and mine is wrong. I mean, that's at the core of so much of this. And now if you turn into that external validation dependence, kids need constant reassurance from their caregivers. So in adults, then it leads to excessive approval seeking, and difficulty maintaining any kind of worth without others telling you you're of worth. So if you already have this all or nothing, black or white thinking, and then you need someone to tell you you're okay, and now we get into difficulty with accountability, kids instinctively protect themselves by denying responsibility. In adults, it manifests as blame shifting, gaslighting, defensiveness, and just a inability to offer apology, to take ownership of anything. So you start putting a big old combo pack of this together, and you can see where the more emotionally immature someone is, the more control that they can actually have in certain situations. And why, when somebody then tries to push back against that person, then it just flares up even more with the immature, because it's now you really think I'm wrong because you think you're right, versus what if we just were both allowed to have our own thoughts and opinions, and then we could approach this with, you know, let's say nobody's wrong currently, it just is, and let's have a conversation about it. And you can see maybe where there's just so many layers that are in the way with extreme emotional immaturity, especially in adults who have power, money, status. It's so difficult.
It makes me think about the content that we were talking at the beginning, the one that that we were, I don't need to explain, the piece of content that we were
Right at
talking
the beginning
about.
of
the woman flipping
Yeah.
cars, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's such a good example of like everybody is in there arguing their point,
Mm-hmm.
me included. Like I'm in there as well, trying to be like, no, look at it this way. Like you're not seeing this part. I'm right, you're wrong. And they're like, no, I'm right and you're wrong. And it's just this echo chamber back and forth of people essentially saying, and I think that that is like a really good example of what's taking place on a really big scale, right?
Yes.
Everybody thinks that they're right. And if I'm right, then that means that somebody else has to be wrong, as opposed to just existing in the space where that was a really big thing that we had to kind of come to terms with, not just like internally within our relationship back and forth with each other, where we really saw it play out. And we're still kind of seeing it play out because it's a hard space for us, is when it comes to parenting, where there's definitely a parent that's right and there's definitely a parent that's wrong. And we both want to be on the side of the parent that's right. And we see our actions so clearly from that lens, which then we take the defensive point of view, which means, wait, if I'm right, then you must be wrong.
Right. And that's our default.
Yeah. And I think that's really programmable from childhood.
I want to pause.
I
totally want to pause. I wanted some help on this one. Like, it's one of the things that like came up with that, and it's shifted as at first, just like, if you can help me unpack this one a little bit. And, when you had the parent, one parent is right, one parent is wrong. When we got together, I wasn't thinking I was right and you were wrong. I was thinking Craig was right and I was wrong.
Oh yeah, I know this one.
I'm like, okay, your way. Okay, your way. And now I got to the point where I'm like, I was right. And so it's that thing of, I went for the complete flip for a while. I'm like, no, I'm right and you're wrong. And now we're working on the I'm right from my point of view. And not that I'm like the correct way, but what I'm feeling and and you are also. And it was the realization of, like you said, like we're both coming from a space of love. But I just want to speak to that part because there was so much invalidation of myself and I didn't trust myself or my instincts or everything. I just thought whatever Craig said was the right way to do it, which also puts a fuck ton of pressure.
It's much easier. Much easier, babe. There's no pressure
to get it right. And then when you don't get it right, it was like, well, what are you doing? You were supposed to get it right. You're the one that knows. So like, what is like,
Steph, okay. Such a good question and such good awareness there. And, I will tangent a tiny bit. So now let's step into I help a lot of people navigate, a faith journey, formerly known as faith crisis, also known as faith deconstruction, faith transition. And a lot of that comes from, maybe we'll call it higher demand religion. So when and those typically start with there is a right way. So what does that insinuate? That everything else is the wrong way.
The wrong way.
And so then when you have a thought that isn't aligned with the right way, then you are wrong, but you think it. So now I am bad because I think this thing that's not the right thing. So now let's introduce the concept of duality in adult human beings. So I want to watch R-rated movies. I want to do things on a Sunday. I want to experiment with libations. Now we know that those are wrong, so I am bad, but I want to do them, so I'm going to do them, so I must hide them. And so then now all of a sudden I need to overcompensate because I want the external validation. I need people to think I'm good because I know I'm bad. So if I do these performative things, then I'll get the validation. And then I will know I must not be that bad because I'm getting the validation. So I'm good. Now enter your kids. Now your kids come in and now we understand. And this one breaks my heart because my kids are just being kids, but I want them to do it the right way because that'll make me look better. And it will also cover up the things that I'm doing that are bad. And so then so I need to make sure my kids are doing the right thing. Well, they want validation. A kid gets their whole sense of self from external validation. So they are also wanting to listen to certain music or wear certain clothing or whatever, but they know it's bad. So they're bad and they want to do the right thing. And so you've got both adult and kid are neither one developing their own sense of self. And so we could talk about what that looks like. But I think what's so difficult there too is what it teaches over time is I also can shed my accountability because I'm trying to do the right thing. And if that person says that I'm doing it, and now enter in magical thinking. And And this is where I think that I'll go with God, the universe, the creator. I think they're going to be on board with me on this one, where if all of a sudden I'm saying, man, why didn't I get that job? Or why did this person get angry with me? Because I don't want to take ownership. I didn't do anything wrong. And so then it's like, man, God, why hast thou forsaken me? Why are you punishing me now? And I think God's up there going, hey, that's not on me. Like you're good. And in the spiritual realm, and then when I speak on this stuff, I talk about whether it's literal or figurative. If you look at the concept of differentiation, I'm going to say that the idea of God, the parent, the creator, the universe, is got to be the most differentiated entity known to humankind, because they're good. So then they are not getting enmeshed with, if I do my own thing, then they don't view them as a bad parent. And that's where, if you look, I love this concept, whether in whatever spiritual realm you're looking at, where if the God you believe in is the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow, and their love is unconditional, end of story. So now if I think they're mad at me, that's a me thing.
Today's episode of the podcast is brought to you by Nutrotonic. I've been a big fan of Shilajit for a really long time, but I've really struggled to find a brand that prioritizes quality above all else. Most of what's out there is really low quality, diluted, and packed with unnatural fillers, but not Nutrotonic's Shilajit. Nutrotonic's Shilajit is a rare form of red Himalayan Shilajit. It's packed with all the essential minerals, fulvic acid, and nutrients that your body needs. Shilajit is going to help you boost your energy, your focus, and your overall health and well-being. Nutrotonic's Shilajit is the real deal. It's sourced directly from the high-altitude regions of the Himalayas. Listeners of the Steph Craig Show can save 15% off of everything at Nutrotonic's website. Click the link in the description and be sure to use code Steph Craig to save that 15% off. Power up and fuel your body the way nature intended with Nutrotonic's Shilajit.
They're up there going like, you're good. So even I was thinking about this recently in the concept in the Christian realm of repentance. I like the version of that means turn to. So if I'm turning to a dad that's like, you're good, and their love is unconditional, it was the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow, then it turns out I'm good. I'm not doing it wrong. And then I am beating myself up. And then I'm turning to this secure attachment with the divine that is always, and I'll go all or nothing here, going to say, you're good. Because what if that inherent goodness is within us? And it turns out that our job is to just go through life and unlock and unpack that. Because then we won't need people to tell us we're okay. We are okay. And anyway, that went a place I didn't think it would go. But anyway, I just love that concept so much. So to get back, Steph, so now I think that I look at that as I call it in this document or in the podcast, poor emotional boundaries, because kids naturally merge their identity with their caregiver. So in relationships, it manifests as taking responsibility for others' emotions or handing our emotions over to somebody else. And this one is so wild to me now, because I have recognized, and this is one of those where you start sounding kind of like a jerk when you step away from it. But okay, how many times have we said things like, yeah, I didn't want to say this thing because I didn't want that person to feel bad, or I didn't do this because I didn't want them to think that I was a certain way. So what I'm actually doing is I'm taking responsibility for their emotions. I have merged, I have these poor emotional boundaries, and I've merged my sense of self into someone else's. But there's a couple things happening. One, this is why I went on that one tangent. I actually then don't have to take ownership or accountability for my own emotions or my own life, for that matter. And also, I'm not even letting that person have their own emotional experience. So if I don't want my kid to feel bad, so therefore I am going to pay for all of their things, they may become the world's greatest payer of things. They may be a financial wizard, but I am limiting that. I'm enabling the potentially negative behavior because I don't want to feel bad, and I don't want them to think that I don't care. Mm-hmm. I will rest my case.
Yeah. Building a lot of resentments, hindering and avoiding accountability.
Yeah. And then so when you're like, oh, he is right, I worry sometimes that is that and I probably need to come up with better positive words than poor emotional boundaries, but challenging emotional boundaries, or because that's one that I think that we just learned to fold into other people and because if I think that I'm probably wrong, and that's why I was going back to this, there is a right way and a wrong way. And if I'm used to thinking my own way, but I know it's wrong, then I'm going to default to the way that the person that seems more confident or whatever that looks like thinks. And
I shift that.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna do it again. Like I've shifted, I've caught that now, and I have a practice. You talk about the pause, is when I'm feeling a really strong emotional charge, and like this is like something, and we talk about it. Some, it's not always like, hey, let's sit down and talk. We debate about it, we argue about it, and then we get to that point. When I start to feel like he is right in this space, like sometimes he feels like it's like, or we come to this space, this middle ground where neither is right or wrong. We just understand where the other person was coming from, and we can, like, we see that. But if I start to feel that, then I check myself, and I'm like, even if you're right, I need to regulate, even if you're right, because I can't go to that. That's what I used to do. So I'll have to get to my own space and be calm, and then like find that it's okay to be wrong. I'm fine with, but I'm very cautious about jumping to making myself wrong now.
Yeah.
And so I give myself the time to make sure, okay, I'm not gaslighting myself and invalidating, like, it's such a interesting dance, learning how to do all this.
Well, and I would love your guys, I trust you, your buts. I really currently, and I think that life has this whole pendulum effect. So I go from overly kind and nice guy to then it's almost like you have to go all the way over here to like, oh, I don't care, the kind of like a jerk. Then you're going to find the middle ground of calm confidence. And I think that is happening in most everything, so many things. So I am currently in this place of, even when somebody says, and it's okay, I realized I was wrong. I personally still don't want that energy, or it just, that was where I was at, or that was the way that I viewed things. And now I'm able to take a different view or a different approach, because I think that right, the word wrong still implies that something is wrong with me, or I was doing it the wrong way. But this is where I go back to the acceptance and commitment therapy stuff, where I am the only me ever that has walked the face of the earth. And the amount of variables that go into every single moment as me is mind-blowing. Nature, nurture, birth order, DNA, abandonment, rejection, hopes, fears, dreams, got to go to the bathroom before a podcast starts, you name it. All that stuff is at play, hypothetically. And so that's what makes me me, and that's what makes me feel the way I do and think the way I do. So I am of the mindset that I will stay on this pendulum swing of, so it isn't wrong, it just is. But this is where I've been talking lately, when I go back to this concept of differentiation, as my job in life is to interact with other humans to learn about myself. I can maintain connection, and I'm going to learn about my autonomy. Is I want people to go from, I don't know what, if they started from like a 30% solid, 70% flexible sense of self, where I need everybody to tell me what to do, where now I've been telling my clients lately, I want this formula to be more like a 90% solid, 10% flexible self. So I'm good. But at I'm going to leave 10% open, because I want to be the best me. I want to be able to self-confront. So then when somebody's saying, I think this, then I'm like going to start from a place of, I'm good, because I am me, and this is the way I think and feel. And it's the first time it's me literally right now. So it just is. I'm not broken. I am a human being. And so then, but I'm leaving 10% open to then say, that is a very good point. So I'm going to take that data, and I'm going to take a look at that, because and there's a potential I may integrate what your view is, and that's where that takes some maturity, because I think it has to come from a place of, there isn't a right or wrong, but I want to know you, and I want you to know me. And then through that interaction, I may learn that I am even more solid with my thought on this, or I might integrate some of your thoughts on there. And then I am so grateful for our shared experience. Now I want to find more.
I would argue that this, like what we're talking about right now, this is the thing that was in some ways one of the hardest things that we had to learn how to do in our relationship, but it also came with the biggest benefit, like being able to just take right and wrong off the table, and no longer look at it from that lens. And now it's just looking at it from the lens and the perspective of like, I want to hear what you are feeling. I want to hear what you're experiencing. I want to see the world through your eyes, so that I have a better understanding of who you are. And that has nothing to do with like a decision-making process of like, who's going to make the right decision here, who's going to make the wrong decision. It's more of just like, I want to know how you tick. I want to know how you work. I want to know how you feel. I want to know how you think. I really want to learn about you. And that has been like, as we're sitting here talking about it, and I've been thinking about it, I'm like, it was one of the hardest things for us to do. And I think it just gave us the biggest, like, it helped our relationship so much. It brought us closer together. It really cultivated and created the bond that we really have today, because we got rid of that idea that like my way or the highway. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, I honestly, I don't know what I'm doing over here 90% of the time. And, you know, so yeah, I think that it's really been a huge deal for us. I'm glad that we're talking about it. I'm really grateful.
Me too.
Well, and it sounds, and that's real intimacy, the courage to know somebody and the courage to be known. I think we talked about that the first time I came on here. And what I love about it, and I'm writing a lot now about a upcoming episode on curiosity and genuine curiosity, because already I think people don't have enough curiosity. And then when they do start to be curious, it's basically this, hey, why are you being so dumb? Well, it is a question. I mean, technically I'm being curious, but it needs to be, tell me about you, help me understand. I want to know more, but it can't be with this little subtle part of you that is ready to then, okay, see, that's where you're wrong. Or, but I don't think that's the right way to do it, because then now I'm not going to feel safe opening up to that person anymore, unless I become the most differentiated human, which is possible, because then when they're saying, well, I think you're wrong, then I'm like, check in, I'm good. And then I can say, well, tell me more about why you think I'm wrong, because I'm good, but I do want to understand. But you'll typically find that if you are in that position, that person is not saying, oh, well, let me do some self-confrontation. No, because they're doing this poor emotional boundaries. They're saying, but I need you to know you're wrong, because then that will help me feel better. That means I'm right.
Yeah.
We go right back to the black or white thinking, the all or nothing.
These are so good, Tony. Yeah, these are so good.
That tell me more, that was our gateway. I feel way back when. And because you didn't have to be emotionally right. You didn't have to like have all these things. It was just, you would say that. I would say
even
that.
in
It
the
was
thick
just,
of fights sometimes, like even
tell me more.
Internally, you're having all of those parts that's like, fuck this. I don't know what she's saying. She's so full of shit. It's just like, externally, I'm just like, tell me more. I'm just doing my best to hear you and listen more and more and more.
So good. Well, and I think that'll lead into, and I had in this document I can share, I had this next one I'll do, that was all the ones I covered. And then in the next episode, I covered several more, but these ones are kind of the frame, the basis of so much of our immaturity, the way that we show up. But this one I think is so fascinating. It's mind reading. I mean, it is, children assume others see the world exactly as they do. So then adults pattern this by assuming our partner's intentions. And I see that so often. Well, obviously this is what you meant. Well, of course, everybody knows this. And what is so interesting there is it goes back into and this is when I talk about my 4 pillars, I've got a pre-pillar, which is from Marshall Rosenberg's book, Nonviolent Communication. And it's the separating observation from judgment, because I am observing you doing this and I'm making a judgment. And so once we do that, now if I say, I want to know you, but I've already made a judgment on what I'm observing, then if you don't tell me exactly validate what I think you're doing, then I can also say you're not even being honest with yourself. And so this mind reading, somebody gets home and they're angry, and then they walk past their partner and they don't say anything. That partner gets to say, okay, well, obviously they don't care. And so now they can shut down and they can tell themselves, or they can come into the therapy office and say, well, what am I supposed to do? Everybody knows that when you come home, you say hi. Everybody knows that. It's obvious. So they should be reading my mind and know that I am hurt now. And then that person is thinking, okay, everybody knows if the universal sign for if you come in and you're angry, that you need some time to cool off. Or everybody knows that you need to go say to them, hey, what's going on? So we just have these expectations that we can read each other's minds. We all think the same way. And boy, we don't.
Do you know what's so funny? Like emotional maturity, everything you're describing, like the opposite side of all of these things is kind of just like really basic, easy, rational way of looking. Like it's just giving everybody the benefit of the doubt, yourself included. Do you know what I mean? It's like, oh, sometimes we make mistakes. Sometimes these things happen. Like we're all just human. It's all just really rational stuff of like, once we get down to actually listening and understanding one another, you're like, oh, that makes total sense why you thought that.
It does.
It makes total sense why you would feel that way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That happens. So, like we had one last night when we were preparing. So we went to bed last night. We've been staying up later and later recently for whatever reason, like our sleep schedule is getting different. And the night before that we were drinking some tea, and it had like valerian root in it or something like that. So it put us to sleep almost immediately. And I woke up the next day and I was kind of groggy and kind of took us, like the morning was a little bit slower for me. And I didn't want that to happen this morning for this interview. I wanted to be more fresh and more awake. So last night, Steph's like, do you want some more tea? And I'm like, no. And I kind of brushed her off
you
in
were
response
like,
to it.
No, because we're going to bed.
Yeah, no, we're going to bed. And then I went
like,
back out into the kitchen and I had a little snack. And she's like, what are you doing? Like, You said that we were going to bed and you
Yeah.
just said no. And I'm like, that's because I didn't want the tea. Like as soon as I explained it to her, she's like, oh, that makes total sense.
And at first I heard, and like I'm in this phase right now where I'm really looking. Anyway, I'm going through some stuff and it's bringing out little me. So we keep acknowledging it. He's like, why did you think that? I'm like, because I'm two right now. You know, I'm really like carrying the space. But then it was like, what I heard is, no, we couldn't do this thing together that I love doing, that we have this because we're going to bed, because we have to get up early. And then you said, no, you didn't want to do this thing with me. And it wasn't true about going to bed, because then you just wanted to be. And so I just made it like, I took it from this very childlike perspective of, you don't like me. You don't want to be, I understand how much I blew that out of the proportion, but that's what I was feeling. You don't like me. You don't want to be around me. You don't want to spend time with me. And you just lied to me. So now I'm not safe and I don't know what's, all of this. And he's like, I just didn't want the tea.
Yeah. Craig just didn't want to get sleepy. I mean, I love it. I love it, Steph. And I think that and it kind of goes back to that. We could check off so many of these in a good way. And, the mind reading expectations or the emotional reasoning, I felt that. So obviously it's true and he should know. And there's a way to do it and not a way to do it. And that's why, and I worry a bit, because I had a client say that it all feels overwhelming. And then I even said, okay, well, but we're back to like, you think you're going to be doing it the wrong way. And I hope that as people start to hear these things, that they can just recognize, okay, I mean, and I like this so much. I don't know the things I don't know. I think that is such a powerful concept. And the things I have learned, I used to not know. So this becomes more of those things that I didn't know. And now I know. And I think that over time, it gets to be exciting. I think of, well, what else is there that I don't know? I can't wait to know. And if I think that I have to master these and know all these, I'm right back to I'm doing it the wrong way, or it's all or nothing, or it's black or white.
There's something in there, like when we started down this path several years ago, and I was thinking about like looking at myself through that lens of being emotionally immature, that immediately brings up judgment inside of me where I'm like, no, I'm not. Like I'm defensive to that term. Very much like growing up, it was like, well, you're just immature. It's this thing of like, you're not grown up enough. You don't really know, like you're stupid, right?
We were told that forever.
Very
Grow
much
up.
told that.
Grow up.
I like the reframe of like less, because I still sit with that, like the term emotional immaturity or emotional maturity as somehow like better than, as opposed to just the learning process.
I like that.
Like it's really easy to think about how we have to learn things. We have to learn how to read. We have to learn how to tie our shoes. We have to learn things. Like we're all okay with that concept and idea intellectually, having to learn things. And I think emotional health is the exact same thing. It's something that we have to learn, right? We have to be taught it. We have to learn it. We have to absorb it. And looking at it through that lens rather than some sort of like lack where this is, I'm 44 years old and I'm still immature emotionally, as opposed to just like, well, I haven't learned all the things that I need to learn emotionally.
Well, and I like that. So I'm 55. And again, I would like to say I'm a 55-year-old therapist for 20 years now with adult kids, podcasts. One would maybe think that I've got things figured out. And I love to be able to say with certainty, oh, I don't, but I don't think that's the goal. I think it's to just continue to figure things out. And I do call it your own individualized, customized treatment plan. I love acceptance and commitment therapy, the nurtured heart parenting, my beloved 4 pillars, differentiation. I'm going to go big on emotional immaturity, Fowler stages of faith. I found the things that really have helped me make sense of things. And so I am presenting them to the world. Now, if everybody does exactly all the things I do, then apparently I am right. So that helps, right? But we're all going through it for the first time. And so we're going to pick up things from this person and this person. And I will say I have one of my favorite clients of all time. A few weeks ago, I brought to her all the immaturity stuff. And I was giddy. She was in the session. Her husband was in there. And I'm saying it. And I'm like, isn't this cool? And I love the fact that she said, don't take this the wrong way, which what I love, by the way, is I don't think I can take anything the wrong way anymore. I think it's been quite a while because even from a differentiation lens, it's all right, this will be interesting. Tell me the things that I should take the wrong way. And I'm like, oh, I'm good. So I love that practice in and of itself. But then she said, when we started working with you, we got some 4 pillars. We got the need for validation. We start talking about differentiation. Now you're bringing all this immaturity stuff. And she said, when will you kind of have it all figured out? And I just said, oh, never. Isn't that exciting? Like that's, and that's where I went down this whole path of, that I don't know what I don't know. And so I can't wait to know more. And I always have this like squishy thought of what's coming next. I really still think I'm going to learn a lot more about internal family systems. I think I know some about it. The more I think that I need to learn so much more about yoga. As I understand, I've got a couple of clients that are huge yoga enthusiasts, and there are so many things I cannot wait to know more about. And I think that becomes the journey of life. And the older we get, I think we were talking about this earlier, and time passing, and I am somewhat becoming obsessed with how do I stay sharp the older I get. And so I read a lot about the people as the population ages, and I cherry pick articles that make me feel better. But I found some good ones that say, if you continue to learn, have a sense of purpose, that how much more you will be present and active and young, and your mind will stay sharp. And so I don't ever want to stop this stuff. I don't think there's an end.
I
so
totally agree. Wasn't there something, babe, that you like, I can't remember if you brought it up, or I don't remember where I heard it, but it was something like when you push yourself to do the hard things. So when there's the thing that you don't want to do, but then you do it anyways. And I'm not talking about like detrimental, abusive,
not
terrible
violating
things.
your boundaries.
Yeah. Not things that are hurtful to us in a
things
sense.
Things that are good for you that you know, and you just don't put forth that effort for yourself, where it's going to be too hard.
There's something neurologically in that space that helps with brain development and brain growth and things like that, where if you push yourself to do the thing that you don't want to do it continually. Isn't that right?
It builds your brain. Yeah,
Absolutely.
it like expands that part. And so you start to get better at it. And it's that thing too. It's, you have to keep finding that thing to push yourself, because once you get good at doing this thing and it's no longer hard, it's not working that same muscle. And it's not about that. Like, you're going to hear that and be like, all right, I'll ultra marathon, you know, you don't have to go to, or maybe if you like that, do it. I'm not saying not to do that. But it's like once you find that edge, you can like to keep building, find something else. And it's like, it's a rewarding thing too. It's also like you like what you're learning, but you just like push yourself a little more than you would in that. I'm getting it wrong. It's okay. Right. I'm getting it right.
No, it's good.
Just like, it's that flexing that muscle, because you are actually helping yourself and you're actually loving yourself in that space when you're putting forth the effort for yourself. And that can be incredibly hard. Like, it might be saying, no, I don't want tea when I'm going to bed right now, which is got to be scary on that space, because your wife might think you don't love her anymore.
Right. Yeah. Craig.
And so it's just these little things, because it's building that brain, it's building that confidence, and it's building that cognition muscle as well. And you're tapping in, it's setting new neurons that are going. So it's a healthy space.
Yeah. In the book, ADHD 2.0 of all things, which is, I look at that as a holy scripture. There's a great chapter in there about the neuroplasticity of the brain, and how that the fixed brain mindset has been so debunked. You can teach an old dog new tricks. And so the constant learning, I think you're spot on, Steph. And I love in the book, and I'm not a big bibliotherapist, so this is making me sound like, oh, I could quote things all day, but I just have a few go-to that I love. But Buddha's Brain, this book by Rick Hansen, that's where I learned this concept of the mechanisms of memory, but even more so what implicit memory is, which he says is implicit memory, or what it feels like to be you, is based on the slow residue of your lived experience. So I think the more that we are doing of whatever it is, then it just becomes. So if I am a seeker of knowledge, if I am someone that is going to continue to push myself, it just eventually becomes what it feels like to be me. And I worry, and it breaks my heart when people are continually ruminating, overthinking, worrying, because over time, what it feels like to be that person, or their implicit memory built on their slow residue of lived experience, is they are one who overthinks and ruminates and worries. And I do not have data to back it up, but it makes sense to me that is what is going to keep me alive mentally. Is I worry that when people are worrying and overthinking and ruminating, that is how they are spending their emotional calories. And over time, that is what they do. And then when somebody is trying to get to know them, they're just going to hear a lot of that. But I worry about, and I don't think you understand, but what if, and over time, if somebody is on their journey that is much different than that, then that won't necessarily be a person that they will feel as connected to. And that can be really difficult.
Yeah. Tony, this has been so fun. This has been so cool. We love when you come on the podcast.
So much.
I was
I think
excited
it's a
about
great
this.
conversation. Emotional maturity, immaturity. I do think that it's like if we look at society as a whole, I think it's the thing that we are all really needing to take an honest, like no bullshit look at and recognize and start taking accountability before. And you've laid out a bunch of things I love so perfectly. The things to like, okay, well, if I'm in this space, if it's black or white thinking, if I'm in the magical thinking, if I'm, all of this stuff is very much stemming from that place. It's such a good foundation to start from. So I love it. This has been awesome.
Well, once again, I love that I had the space to go through all this, because I think the last time I was on, I maybe had shared with you guys, I used the first experiences. It's in my canon that I send to new clients. And I think this will be one I can't wait to share as well, because I appreciate you guys giving me the space and the energy and the fun times to work through or go through all of these in that kind of detail. So I can't wait to share this with everybody too.
It's so awesome. Good. What's the, do you have a website? You've got a website, don't you?
Where just TonyOverbay.com, and then, or at Virtual Couch on TikTok, or at virtual.couch on Instagram. And I would love to say that in the not too distant future, I am working on a little bit of a course on emotional maturity and emotional immaturity. And I do have a book that I'm trying to put together, but I'm good at, that's my magical thinking. There are a lot of times where I've said, I'm going to do this, and then I mean it in the moment, and then I don't do it. But I think this is something that it's been just simmering for so long. And then it just finally all makes a lot more sense and is coming together. And then I don't know if it just needed to wait until we are seeing all the things we're seeing in the world. But I think we need to just first start from a place of awareness of what emotional maturity looks like. So I want to be on the forefront of that. Here's where I want to manifest and make it known that I want to speak to groups on this. I want to help people with this. I want to put a lot of content out about this, because you can hear it and say that's a good idea, but this is something I've been living for so long and trying to help people recognize, understand, be. And so I just think that we're just at the beginning of figuring out what to do with our emotional immaturity. And I think it will definitely change dynamics, relationships. And so why not the world?
Yeah.
There we go.
I think it's the missing key.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you guys. Can't wait to have you come on my podcast next. I'm enjoying the home and away stuff, right?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Let's wrap up, babe.
Okay. Thank you so much. Expect the best.
Plan for the greatest.
We got a wild ride. Wait and see, you and me. We were meant to be.
Thanks for tuning into the episode. If you haven't yet, please take a moment and subscribe, rate, review, and share this episode with somebody. There's new episodes of the Steph Craig Show every week. And if you enjoyed this one, be sure to check out some of these clips as well. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you all on the next episode.